Hi everyone, welcome back. In previous lecture we have installed MySQL Server and MySQL Workbench on Windows machine. Well, MySQL Server is basically a database system that we use to store, manipulate and access the data. On the other hand, MySQL Workbench is a client that provides a GUI. GUI means graphical user interface to communicate with the MySQL Server. Okay, so MySQL Workbench is nothing but a tool or a client that provides a graphical user interface to communicate with MySQL Server. Now let us see how to make a connection with MySQL Server. Well, there are two types of clients that we can use to make a connection with MySQL Server: GUI and CLI. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface, and MySQL Workbench is one of the commonly used GUI tool to communicate with MySQL Server. And other option is CLI, Command Line Interface. So most of the developers also prefer using command line tool as a client to communicate with MySQL Server. Well, in this lecture I am going to show you how we can use both MySQL Workbench and command line interface to communicate with MySQL Server. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play with the databases. Like we'll create a database, we'll list out all the databases, we'll select the database and we'll drop the database. Okay. So let us see the database management in this lecture. So let us first use the command line interface to communicate with MySQL Server, and later we'll see the same commands with MySQL Workbench. Alright, so go to the search bar and here just type cmd and open the command prompt over here. Let me maximize this. Now we have opened the command prompt. Next, let us enter into command line interface of MySQL client. So here just type the command MySQL -u. So U stands for username. Well, we are going to use a root user, so here just give the username as root -p. P stands for password. Next, just hit enter and then enter the password. Okay, here enter the password. So make sure that you enter the password for root user over here. And next, once you enter the password, next hit enter and there we go. So this is the command line interface of MySQL client. So by using this command line interface we can communicate with MySQL database. Okay, so here in order to see the existing databases in a MySQL server, just type the command show databases. So this will list out all the available databases in a MySQL server and hit enter, and here you can see these are the predefined databases in a MySQL server. Next, in order to create a new database in a MySQL server, just type the command create database followed by the database name. So here let us give database name as MyDB and hit enter, and here you can see query OK 1 row affected. Next, if you want to see whether the database is successfully created or not, for that again type the command show databases. So this will list out all the available databases, right? Just hit enter and here you can see MyDB is successfully created. Next, let us see how to use or select a particular database. Well, if you can notice the list over here, so there are too many databases in the list and we don't know which database that we are currently using, right? So in order to select a particular database that we want to work, just type the command use followed by the database name. So for example here, let us say we want to use MyDB as a database. So just type MyDB over here and hit enter. And here you can see database changed. Next, you can go ahead and perform the operations like create the table, insert the data into table. So all this stuff will go inside this MyDB database. Okay, so this is how you can use or select a particular database from the list. Next, let us see how to drop the particular database. So here we have already a MyDB database created. Let us see how to drop this MyDB database. So here just type the command drop database followed by the database name MyDB and just hit enter, and there we go. You can see query OK 0 rows affected. Next, in order to verify whether the database is deleted or removed from the list, just type the command show databases. This will list out all the available databases, isn't it? And here you can see the list. The MyDB database successfully dropped. So this is how you can use drop database statement to delete or drop the particular database from the list. Now we have used command line interface to communicate with MySQL server. Next, let us see how to use MySQL Workbench. So here, let us open the MySQL Workbench over here. So just type MySQL Workbench and just click on this. And here you can see welcome to MySQL Workbench. So in order to connect our MySQL Workbench to the MySQL server, we have to establish the connection. So here you can see the default connection which is established by root user. So just click on it. Well, this is the MySQL Workbench user interface. And here you can see the administration section, and this is the schemas. So just click on schemas over here. Well, just remember, in MySQL, the database and schema both are same. But in different databases like Oracle or other database, the schema and database may be different. But in MySQL, the schema and database both are same. So don't get confused with schema and database. Okay. And here you can see whenever we create a new database, that database will be listed over here. For example, in order to query the database in a MySQL Workbench, we need to open the query editor over here. So just let me close it and let me show you how you can open the query editor. So here you can see the plus icon. So just click on it. Well, within this query editor, we can write the SQL queries. Well, before writing any SQL query, let us go to the edit section over here and then preferences and go to the SQL editor. Below that you can see query editor. Just click on it and here just tick mark this, use uppercase keywords on compilation. So whenever you type the SQL keywords, it will automatically give you the keywords. So for that, just enable this, use uppercase keywords on compilation. This is pretty useful to improve the productivity. Next, click on OK. Now inside this query editor, let us type the SQL command to create a new database. So here just type create and you can see the create keyword automatically comes. Okay, and just hit enter. And next create followed by the database and followed by the database name MyDB. So this is the SQL command to create a new database. In order to execute this SQL statement, just select it and click on this button. So this will basically execute the SQL query. Okay, and once you execute the query, you can see the result over here, one row affected. And in order to verify whether the database is created or not, you can go to the schemas and here just click on this refresh icon and here you can see MyDB is successfully created. Okay, next let us create one more database. Let us say MyDB1 and just select it and click on this button to execute this SQL statement and you can see the output, one row affected. In order to verify this database is created or not, just go to the schemas, refresh it and there we go. MyDB1 is successfully created. Next, let us see how to list out all the available databases. For that, we can use show databases statement. So here let me remove this and just type show databases. And in order to execute this SQL statement, just select it, click on this execute button and here you can see the output. So let me minimize this and here you can see databases. Okay, so this show databases statement basically lists out all the available databases from the MySQL server. And you can see MyDB and MyDB1, both the databases are successfully created. Well, if you can notice the database differences over here. So in output you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 databases, but here in a schema section there are only 3 databases. Well, this information schema, performance schema and MySQL. So these are the default databases. Okay, so these are the databases which used by MySQL server. So it won't be shown in the schema section. So only these 3 databases we can use. So this system database basically has a system configuration table, which we may not use most of the time. Now we have seen how to use show databases statement to list out all the available databases. Okay, next let us see how to use or select a particular database from this list. Well, let us say we want to create a table into this MyDB database. then first we need to use or select this database. Then only we can perform the different operations. Okay, so in order to select a particular database from the list, just type the command use followed by the database name. Let us say we want to use MyDB database, so just type MyDB. Next, just select this and execute this SQL statement. Now you can see the MyDB database is highlighted over here. Okay, it means this MyDB database is a default database, and whenever we execute the SQL statements, those SQL statements will be executed against this database. Okay, for example, if we create the table, if we insert the data into a table, if we select the columns from the table, then those operations will be performed against this MyDB database, because we have made this database as a default by using this use MyDB statement. So this is how you can select or use a particular database. Next, let us say you want to switch the database or you want to use the different database. Then what you can do is you can execute this statement again, that is use followed by the database that you want to use. For example, MyDB1. So just execute it and you can see MyDB1 is highlighted. It means this MyDB1 is the default database, and whenever you perform different SQL operations like create table, insert data, all those operations will be performed against this database. Okay, next let us see how to drop or delete the database. So here just type the command drop followed by database followed by the database name. Let us say we want to drop MyDB database, then you can mention MyDB and just select this statement and just execute it. And here just let me maximize this, and here in an action output you can see the time in which the SQL statement is executed, and this is the SQL statement, and this is the message, and this is the time taken by the SQL statement to execute. So this is the log or output of this SQL statement. Okay, next, in order to verify whether the database is deleted or not, you can just refresh the schemas, and here you can see MyDB database is successfully removed or deleted. Next, if you want to delete MyDB1 database, you can just type MyDB1 over here and just execute this statement, and here you can see MyDB1 database is successfully deleted. Alright, so these are the couple of commands that we use to create a database, select the database, show the databases, and drop the database. So here let me quickly list out the databases. Create database, database name demo, show databases, use demo, and then drop database followed by database name. So these are the 4 commands we have seen in this lecture, right? And here one more important point is you can see the keyword letters. The keyword can be in a lowercase or uppercase. So most of the time we use the keywords in a uppercase. So here instead of this create, we can use the keyword in a uppercase. So this looks good. That's why most of the programmers or developers use the keywords in a uppercase. So you can also use in a lowercase, because MySQL server it doesn't look into the letters. So the keywords are case insensitive, so you can enter the keywords in a lowercase or uppercase. Alright, great. In next lecture we will see how to use SQL to create a table in the database. Alright, great. I will see you in the next lecture.